expect you to know some of the factors that we've been looking at. This time we looked at finance. We looked at finance, which constitute of, it had what? Taxation. Taxation, then we looked at VAT. We looked at, it's what, costs, cost and income. You can say revenue and expenses. All right. Then we looked at data handling. We looked at data handling. And under data handling, we looked at the central tendencies, which is mean, median, mode. Then we also looked at the measures of spread. Measures of spread, we mean quartiles, and range, among others, right? Yes, let's look at what we expect to see in our question paper. Let's look at what we expect to see in the question paper. What we expect to see in the question paper. One, we expect to see some material for data handling. We expect to see some material from data handling. We could look at what we call the box and whiskers. Box and whiskers. Box and whiskers. Then from there, we expect to look at what we call the IQR. We look at the median. Probably we shall also have a little bit of mean. Then maybe mode. All right, this is what we call the central tendency. Measures of central tendency are three: mean, median, mean, and mode. IQR, what I expect you to remember here is that the upper quartile, which is Q3, minus Q1, always upper quartile minus the lower quartile. Then box and whiskers, I expect you to remember that diagram there. That diagram there, you have to remember it, whereby this is Q1, our Q2, we have Q3, and the maximum plus the minimum. When you look at the box and whiskers, what are the questions that you might expect? I believe under the box and whiskers, questions that I expect under the box and whiskers are determining the range, because you already have the maximum minus the minimum. I would expect to be asked the IQR, which is Q3 minus Q1. Another one that I would be expect is to state or to give the median, which is always Q2. The other part is to explain the quartiles. Explain the quartiles. That one I can expect that from the box and whiskers. If someone talks of the box and whiskers, how shall we explain the quartiles, or how shall we explain the given value? Now, if they tell me, for example, if the minimum here is 20, here we have a 20, sorry, we have a 30. Median could be 55. Q3 could be 68. Maximum could be 70, 72 or 7. Okay, let's say 82. All right. So if you're to explain this, a term of this, so let's say these were marks obtained by learners in a test, 100%. So the first thing we shall say, minimum. How will you say the minimum? The minimum, you only say the lowest mark obtained, the lowest mark obtained was or is 20%. Then how would you explain Q2? Sorry, Q1. Q1 we shall say 25%, remember Q1 represents 25%, 25% of the learners, 25% of the learners scored below what? 30%. This 25 comes from the nature of Q1. Then this one here, 30%, it's what we see on the box and whiskers. You see that? All right. The other method or the other explanation for Q1, you would say, because whatever is on the left of Q becomes below, and whatever is on the right becomes above. So if 25 is off of 100, what do you mean with? You mean with 75. What do we say? Shall say 75% of the learners, 75% of the learners scored. Now, instead of below, it becomes above 30%. This is one way of explaining the values of Q1 or so. We are looking at Q2. What will happen? Now, Q2, still we shall say here, Q2, what will it be? The percentage has to change. Q2, remember, it's median. All right? So if it's median, we shall say it's between, actually, it's above or below, because 50%. All right? Median is 50%. Then what shall we do? We shall say, I'm explaining now, I'm elaborating on the values. Then we shall say 50% of what? Of the learners, 50% of the learners scored 50% scored above or below. So here you put the value of Q2, which is what? 55. So you say 55%. This percentage carries or it represents the nature of the quartile that you're talking about. You see that? The quartile you are talking about. All right, we look again. We look at the other one's Q3. Q3, what will happen under Q3? Under Q3, we shall say Q3. Remember, Q3 carries a percentage of 75%. Together? So 75% of the learners, what happened? They scored below. They scored below. Now here you put the value of Q3. Here we said Q3 is what? 68. Now still you ask yourself, if 75% scored below, how many scored above? So 75 below, that means 25% scored or got a mark above 68%. This is the opposite of Q3 when we look at the right-hand side, which is what? Above. Definitely, the last part of it, you will say the maximum. The maximum has no percentage. You just put the value there. So maximum simply meaning the highest value. All right. So here we shall say, the value, the maximum value scored, maximum, we shall say, the highest value is 82%. This is how we explained on the box and whiskers. All right. As a learner, when you give a scope is supposed to guide you on what you expect and what you ask yourself when you set the scope. Okay, let's look at the next part that we have here. We have some examples of box and whiskers. Okay, box and whiskers, we are here. Box, it will look like this. They are both, it can either be this one here, it's the horizontal one, horizontal. Then this one, we call it the vertical. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, in most cases, we rarely see the vertical one, but it's fine. What you have to take in plan, because now, this one here, you name it, you know very well that this is what? This is the minimum. This other, it's Q1. This one here, Q2. This is Q3 and the maximum. That's what I want you to remember. You understand? Then, what about the vertical one? Please, look at it. What's the minimum? It's this other part that is below. Followed by the next line here, it's supposed to be Q1. Followed by the next line, Q2. This is Q3. And on top there we have maximum. Definitely, why do we look at this? It's because we are going from small to big. Remember, Q1 will never be bigger than Q2. Q2 will never be bigger than Q3. And Q3 cannot be bigger than maximum. They can equal, but not be. All right, they can be equal. All right, let's look at this. In this scenario, if you're asked to determine or to find the median, what would you do? Now, in this scenario, the median will be this middle number here, which is our Q2. Median will always be Q2. What about the IQR? IQR, we already said, IQR, the interquartile range, will always equal to Q3 minus Q1. The upper quartile minus the lower quartile. Now, in this case, our Q1 is this one, and our Q3 is this one. So what do? We come and substitute in 80 minus 66. And I believe you end up having something to do with the 14. Right? So our QR is 14. What about if we come this other side? What will be our QR? Remember, oh, this one's impossible. Okay. You can guess a little bit. Let's say it's around 45. You understand? Then this is 180. So our QR from this other side, it will be IQR. It will be Q3 minus Q1. Then our Q3, we are saying it's 181.95 minus 45. What is the answer there? It's okay, 181.95 minus 45. $181.95 minus 45. The answer becomes 136, 95. All right. Interquartile range, it should not be that a problem. All right. Then another thing that you have to know, how do you best tell which group performed better? The smaller the range, the better. And the better the result. And the wider the range or the bigger the range, the worse the results become. Okay, the worse the results become. So if you're comparing two or more, and you compare their interquartile ranges or range, if it becomes smaller, that would be the best group that performed. And if it's too big, that means it's the worst. Okay, we look at the next part that we have here. Here they have given us the box and whiskers, and they're asking us to determine the median. I've told you the median will always be the middle line. Please, you look for the middle line. Here, it's this one here. So the median in this other group here, so the median, you only say median will equal to 69. That's all. Then this other side, the median is 42.5. Remember, why am I taking this? Because this is the middle line. Remember, we said this is our Q1, definitely Q2, and Q3. You will never have a Q3 before a Q1, or you will never have a Q2 after Q3. You understand? They are in that order. The moment you identify Q1, the following one will be Q2, and the order follows. All right, let's look at the other examples as we go on and see. Wonderful. We have this other example here. We are comparing weights of male and female. Look at that, the actual weight in kilograms. Now, these numbers are actual weight. Now, these boxes here, these ones here, these gaps are representing the number of people that they were looking at. All right, the values on the scale, they are representing weight. But the actual box here, so if they asked you, let's say these were 200, let's say 200 male or men, or 200 males, and they ask you, what percentage of male, or yes, determine the number of male that weighed below 60. Look here, 60 is under Q1. And you know very well that Q1 represents 25%. So what does it simply mean? It will mean 25% of the males that were examined, they scored below 20. And how many could they be? They were 50. You understand? How did they come up? They're telling us they tested or they weighed 200 male. So we need to find out how many were below 60. So 60 is Q1. What I need to do, I take the 25% of Q1 times the number of people. That's how I get it. Then what about if I ask you of the females, how many are above 65? So you see this is it. This is our Q3. So above, still here you use what? 25. But if you ask for below, which goes this other side, how many are below? We shall say 75% times. Imagine they are taken, let's say females were 300. So we shall say 75% times 300. What are we looking for? We are looking for the number of females that are below 65, or Q3. Q3 here could probably it's 68. Let's say 68. You understand? So that's how you will get the number there. And you get your number. You do it. The answer becomes what? 225. 225 what? Females are below Q3. All right. Let's go on. In the same exam, we expect us to look at income and expenditure. What I want you to understand here, when we look at income and expenditure, first and foremost, understand how do we get the income? We get income after sales have been made. If there's anything that you're selling, that's how you get the income. Income is obtained after selling, after sales. That's how we get the income. Whereas costs, it doesn't matter. This one is, these are expenses. These are costs you spend even before you start selling. Because, for example, you need to buy the materials, you need to rent, you need to pay for the water, you need to pay for the electricity. You are spending even before you sell. They might ask you, why in the graph, why does the graph for income start from 0? The reason why it starts from 0 is because you start earning after selling. Whereas the expenses, you've already spent even before you sell. And this is called the fixed what? Fixed cost. No matter what, you have to spend that. All right? You have to spend that. Then this brings us to what we call the All right. That is it. Now, another thing from examples like this or papers, the table, you can also determine what we call the break-even point. What's a break-even point? A break-even point is where income and expenses are equivalent. They are equal. At this point, what I expect you to remember is that there's no loss and there's no profit. All right. The numbers or the values, it will be the same for the same values. You check the table where the values are the same. That's when we shall have the break-even point. Then let me see, because at first the number will be simple. Sorry, expense will be bigger than income. But as they go on, look at this. Here, expense was above. Expense is above. Expense is above. Let's check when it's 80. At 80 we have, let me see. So 1125 plus 5 times 50, we have that much. At this value of A is 152. You see, at 152. That means the break-even point was before this. Why? Because here the expenses were above. Then here it dropped. Now the income is greater than the expense. So the person has begun making profit. You see now that the income is bigger than the expense. That simply meaning the person has begun making profit. So the break-even point happens before the 80. All right? When you're on the table. Then they're asking us profit or loss. Now, when will you know that you've made a profit? The moment, or we shall say profit equals to income minus expenditure. Income minus expenditure. So the moment you get a positive answer, if you have a positive answer, then that is what? Profit. And if you have a negative answer, just know it's a what? It's a loss. Another thing that I would like you to know, that profit can also be expressed as a percentage. Profit can be expressed as a percentage. How do we do this? So it will be profit as a percentage will be income minus the cost divided by the cost times 100. This is how we get profit as a percentage. Oh, now if you get a negative number here, it will become loss as a percentage. All right. So it's the same as profit over cost times 100. This is, you are looking at what we call profit as a percentage. Let's go to another concept. We have what we call the break-even point. Now, break-even point, as I've just said, it's when break-even point, what I want you to know, break-even point, it's where income equals to the cost. Income equals to the cost. Some people would say where revenue equals to what? Expense. And what I want you to know is that no loss, no profit. No loss, no profit. No loss, no profit. That is break-even point. No loss, no profit. That's what I want you to remember. No loss, no profit. This is what happens. You put in, let's say 1,500, you get 1,500. You've not made any profit. Okay. In this scenario, let's look at it and we say, do we have any values that are the same? At 40, nothing happens. Okay, we don't have any values that are the same, but you can analyze and you find out when does it break even. I've just told you. For example, when you look at 100, this is what? Cost. Then at B, it's this much. Now, if the table comes like this and they ask you to find the values of B, for example, this is B. What cost has a constant value of 100? How will you get the value of B? So you have to ask yourself, there's a certain number that is being added on to get the values. So first and foremost, what we shall have to do is to look or create the formula. How are you going to create the formula? To B, I'm going to use that here. Simply meaning, if I have 30 necklaces, I spend, it costs me 550. So of the 550, I remove the constant 100, which giving me 450. Now that means this 450 came from the number of what? Necklaces. So I need to divide by 30. What am I doing? I'm looking for cost per necklace. Cost per necklace. So this one will give me around 150. So it gives me 15, not 150. It gives me 15. So each necklace costs me 15. So what does it mean? So the value of B will equal to 250 minus 100 divided by 15, which is 150. So that means the value of B is what? 10. Indeed, if you put it in our equation that we've just created, we said 100 first plus 15 times 10. I think it will give us the answer. I'm not only thinking, but I know it will give us the answer as 250. So our value of B is 10. What about if we look at the value of A here? Value of A is being affected or is produced by the income. Income produces as you go on. Now you ask yourself, if 20 can cost 480, what about 1? So what would we do? 480 divided by 20. And this causes me to have what? The answer as 14. So the value of A will equal to 40 times 14. 40 times 14. And indeed, sorry. This is 24, not 40. Sorry, this is 24. So this means we are going to multiply by 24. 40 times 24. I have the answer as. Yes, you have to take another. Here, common sense has to prevail because this one has to go on. It has to increase. It has to increase the moment, because if you see these numbers are also increasing. You see that? And by the way, they might ask you the variables. We have what we call the independent variables. The independent variable. What is it? This one here, it's what will produce the dependent. What do I mean by the dependent? The dependent or the dependent variable, this one, it depends on, for example, for you to get the income, it will depend on the number of necklaces that you've sold. So the number of necklaces, it's independent. For it does not depend on anything. Whereas the income has to depend on the number of necklaces. So income becomes dependent and the number of necklaces become independent. It's the number of necklaces that will produce the income that you need. Okay, we continue and we look at, that's a break-even point. We shall also look at the terms of graph. All right, when it comes to the graph, one, what I want you to know, if they've told you to plot, please, I would like you to plot using, first and foremost, you plot two numbers that are sensible. For example, here, because already this one's labeled as income. I don't know whether you can see it. It's income, all right? It's income already. So it means income. And actually it's income because also it starts at what? 0. I sell nothing, I earn nothing. That means we are using this table here for this case. That means the cost is here. At 0, it has to start at 100. But then 0, 100, that's one point that you should plot. It's clear. Then you also look, if there's 80, 1,300, and also 100 will give you, all right? You're looking for only two definite points. What do I mean by definite points? You look at the number of necklaces. If it's found on the graph, perfect. Yes, we have 80, we have 100. But then 80 needs 1.3. But when I look at the graph, I don't see 1.3. So to avoid guessing, let me take 100. Remember, 100 told us it will be 160. So 1,600. So I plot that. Then here I come, try to find 100 somewhere here. And please use your long ruler, join these 2 points. The answer will be fine because we need a straight line. So having plotted the line straightly, then this is when you come in and start plotting these other ones here that we are not, all right? The reason why we need 2 points is to have a straight line. Please take note. We need the maximum and the minimum points. So the minimum was at 0, you get 100. And the maximum, 100, you get 1.6. The reason why I've taken 100, because it's definite. It gives me 1.6 is here and 100 is here. The reason why I did use 180, I had to first guess in between. All right? So to avoid that, so you draw a straight line, the answer will be fine. So the point where they meet, it's what we call the break-even point. The break-even point. Let's look at the graph B. That was A. Graph A, and we have graph B. Of X and Y, which one represents income? Which one represents expense? Definitely X will be income. Remember what I've told you always, that you sell nothing, you get nothing. Income starts at 0, 0. Why does it start at 0, 0? Because before you sell anything, you get nothing. As you sell, that's when you start earning. Whereas the cost to start spending before you sell. Imagine you're going to be selling, let's say, biscuits. You have to buy the wheat that's going to make the biscuits before you sell them. So you're buying, you're spending. That's why it starts at a certain amount. And this amount, we call it the fixed what? The fixed cost. Okay, that is it. If you're told to draw the graph, please don't forget, you should have a what? A title. The graph should be labeled nicely. The scale, if it's not given, the scale has to be uniform. And when you plot, we shall mark 2 points of your line. And the nature of if it's supposed to be a straight line, it's supposed to be a straight line. We don't expect to see anything like a curve. When it comes to costs and income, please, they have to be straight lines. All right, this brings us to what we call the personal income tax. Personal income tax, this is the taxation that we've been doing. Please, personal income tax, it can also be known as the payee. Payee standing for pay as you earn. All right. This is also representing personal income tax. And how shall we calculate the personal income tax? Number one, before you touch this table here that you're going to use, you have to know the following. Before you touch the table, you have to know the following. All right. First and foremost, you should make sure that the amount you're going to use, the income has to be taxable. On top of being taxable, it has to be annual. All right. And if you don't know how we get the taxable income, we shall always say taxable income will equal to gross minus, mainly we subtract what? Pension. If the person if the person gives out donation, you subtract the donation. If the person pays for RAF, you subtract RAF, which is Road Accident Fund. All right? That's the number one thing. First, check the salary the person gets. Two, is it taxable? Yes. All right. There we go. Having got the taxable income, now you're good to go and you come here to pick the bracket. This part here, it's only used to determine where does the person fall. The income tax, these are brackets. All right? Where the person falls. Now, for calculations, we shall use this other side. This other side is used for calculations. This other side is used for calculations. Another thing that I would expect you to know under taxation, you should know the person's age. As we go on, I will let you know. This will help you determine which threshold it belongs to. The threshold is that other amount one has to earn before they start paying tax, or a threshold is a determinant. It determines whether one is going to pay tax or not. You have to know that. But what will determine whether a person belongs? It's the age group. Then another thing is to determine the rebate. What is a rebate? A rebate is a tax relief. A rebate is a tax relief. So the age only helps us determine these two. But in most cases, the table is provided to you. They have the rebate. I'll go in details when we look at rebates. Okay, let's do an example here concerning taxation. An example concerning taxation. If they ask you to calculate or determine whether a person pays tax or not, and the marks are 2, please, that means the table has a threshold, then you will compare the amount you've got to the person, and you add that, and you come up with a conclusion. Should the amount be above the threshold, then the person pays tax. If it's equal or below the threshold, then the person does not pay tax. If the person's taxable income is equal to the threshold, they don't pay tax. Or if it's below the threshold, no tax to be paid. Who pays tax is the person whose annual taxable income is above his threshold. Okay, I'm saying this. Let's calculate the tax of a person, age 56, and they earn, let's say, a taxable income of 22,000 per month. So what do we do? Remember, I've told you the taxable income has to be annual. So what do we do? Multiply by 12. Why do we multiply by 12? We are determining, or we are changing it to annual values. So we shall say that times 12. And we indeed get 264,000. All right. So you've got the person's taxable income, annual taxable income. So it's this money that you're going to tax. Ask yourself, where does it belong? Wow, it belongs to bracket number 2. So if you're to calculate the tax for this person here, you will come this other side. You will perform calculations using this formula here. I would advise you to write it fully down. How? Step by step. We say 35,252 plus This is the 26%, which I will write like this much. Open brackets. The money the person gets. The money the person gets minus the money which is inside the bracket. It's not 8, it's 5. Uh, 19,500. Sorry, 195,850. So I'm here doing this. You choosing the bracket. If it's not given to you, you get a mark for the bracket. Number 2, for you to substitute the right number, another mark. So what you do this for me. Plus 0.26 times the number you get in the bracket. Subtract the number there. 195, 80, 50. The number you get in the bracket here. You get a mark for that. Simplification. Now, at this moment, please put everything, the way you see it, put it in your calculator. Put everything in your calculator. I end up having 52,972. Now, if the table has rebate, please subtract the rebate. But if the table is naked like this one, you leave it as it is. If the person pays medical tax credits, you also subtract the medical tax credits. All right, we're continuing and we are checking on the other part. All right, we are still looking at personal income, but now we are looking at the section for rebates. Rebates, what are rebates? We said rebates are tax reliefs given to taxpayers. All right, taxpayers. Rebates, these are tax relief. A relief, it's like they reduce, or it's a relief, like it reduces you off a burden. You understand? If the person was supposed to pay, for example, I'm taking an example, 2019 to 2020, if the person had to pay tax of 43,200 and he was given a relief of 14, that means I need to subtract this. Simply meaning is going to pay less because of the rebates. Okay, now what is a rebate? Primary is for everyone. Whoever pays tax qualifies to have primary rebate. But then if the person goes beyond 65, that means now he qualifies for 2 only. Qualifies for primary and he qualifies for the secondary. All right? Please don't forget that. So as you're subtracting the rebates, you add the 2. Now, if the person goes beyond 60, sorry, if he goes beyond 74, that means he qualifies for the 3. Please, you add everything and you subtract it from the tax that he's supposed to pay. Okay, that is it. Then, still under taxation, we have what we call the monthly medical tax credits. The monthly medical tax credits. Now, the monthly medical tax credits, how do they work? They will depend on the number of people that are being paid for medical aid. It does not depend on the medical aid, I understand, but it depends on the number of people that are being paid for. And usually, now, for example, if the person says, a family, ne? He pays for the family, whereby he pays for himself, the wife, and the three children. It doesn't matter. The person will pay. Okay, there's the main, he will pay that much. Plus the first dependent, whether the child, whether the wife, or he has put the granny there, that will be, you see that? So these two qualify for that. Then whatever comes, now here we have 3 children, the 3 children will go for this. And don't forget, multiply it by 12. Another scenario comes in. Whereby we have, let's say three people. The father and his 2 children. Now someone says, no, sir. The father, okay, yeah, this is the main guy. So he will take 3/6. This, very good. Plus, one of these children becomes the first dependent. Also, he will pay another. Now, of the 3 people, because it was the father and the 2 children, so of the 3 people, 2 people have already gone off. So the other one who is remaining is 200 and you understand? If there are only 2, you'd multiply this. So still also this one, we multiply it by 12. Why? Because we are looking for the annual, amount. The amounts have to be annual when you're dealing with taxation. Okay, we are continuing and we are looking at another aspect of the scope. Wonderful. We look at what we call VAT. VAT stands for should stand for value, the A added, the T tax. This is tax added onto tax that is charged on each item that has value being added on. We have some items that don't have VAT. Examples of items that don't have VAT, which we call the VAT exclusive, they don't include VAT. We have the brown bread, we have fresh vegetables. This is brown bread. Fresh vegetables. I believe cooking oil, even though value has been added on, there's nothing much, all right? Then we have also, okay, this one can also be called exempted, VAT exempted items. You understand? VAT is taken off of them, like they're exempted from VAT. Then what about the ones that include VAT? We call them VAT inclusive. The moment you hear the word inclusive, you know very well that VAT has been added. Things like tomato sauce. We look at things like white bread, you know. Mainly foodstuffs here don't have VAT. Why? To make it simple for people to have what to eat, for people to survive. Not everyone can afford what to eat, all right? So the government has to reduce, or it has to make it simple for people to look for money. Sorry, to look for food, in that they don't die of hunger. All right. So we look at that. Then I'm looking at this and I'm saying, what would you expect to see when you see VAT on your scope list? The teacher has given us a scope and he has told us that will be there. As a grade 12 learner, there are some questions you should ask yourself. Yes, if it's to give it in full, yes, I know how to give it in full. I'll write it and I'll say VAT added tax. What about if it's not to give it in full and we need calculations? All right, VAT calculations. What are the calculations that I expect to see? One, I expect to, I might be asked to include VAT. And what shall I do if I'm asked to include VAT? I will have to take my 1,15 times the price given to me. All right. What about, okay, this is the first one. Or you can take 15 over 100 times the price given to you plus that price. Please remember, we are including. All right. Then what about if you're asked to exclude VAT? What will you do? If you're asked to exclude VAT, that means the price which is given to you, you will have to divide it by 1,15, no any other way. Or the price given to you, that includes VAT. You understand? So in most cases, VAT, when we shall have it's called a till slip. Most cases, that's what we are looking at. Or they might tell you the value of buying something, it was this much, and VAT was not included. What do? You include the VAT. All right, and this scenario here, let's look at this. Cash paid is that all the items that we have there are VAT inclusive. All right. In most cases, on the till slip like this, if there's an item that does not have VAT, they will put either hashtag, all right, or they will put A. A will be used. Now, in this scenario, I look at it as if it's what? I look at it as if it's it has everything is there. Okay, so here we go. They're asking us. They might ask you, how was this value determined? How was the value determined? How was the value determined? How was the value determined? All you have to tell me is that so simple. Come here, look at the cash. This is much, this is the balance, so this is the value. So we shall use this value here. So already this value here, the 363, already includes VAT. So we want to know how was this VAT here. So we shall need to multiply by, do that for me, 300 63 times 15 over. Yeah, it gives you 39,21. Indeed, it's this value here. You see the value that is shown on the till slip. So they might ask you, how was it determined? Okay, how was it determined? So you get the total amount of money that items cost. Because why am I using this? Because already the VAT is included there. All right? Already. Someone might ask us, how do you know the VAT is already included? I will give an example. If you go to ShopRite or Pick and Pay, you buy something from the shelf, you pick something from the shelf. Already the price, the VAT is there. All right. When you take it to the till, it's the same price. So that means already the price what? Includes VAT. Okay, we go to the next aspect of the scope of hours. Yes, remember, this is a scope. I'm not telling you that these will be the answers. Well and good if they become answers, well and good, but I'm expecting or I'm predicting what could happen. Electricity tariffs. All you have to know, electricity, the usage of electricity is measured in, the units of electricity are measured in kilowatts per hour, represented by the kWh, right? That's done. These are the units. Then the amount of electricity that a person will pay each month depends on the number of kilowatts. These kilowatts, we call them the number of what? Units of electricity used during that month. You understand? Then the billing options include prepaid, whereby this one here, you pay before you use the electricity, my dear friend. You pay, this is paid before usage. Whereas the one for paying after, we would call it the fixed or the postpaid. This one, you pay after. All right. This one you pay after. Then the electricity is charged on what we call a sliding scale. Many of you have phones there. If you want to see a sliding scale, just, sorry. A sliding scale, it could be a line like this. You've seen it whereby if you increase, for example, the brightness of as you go on like this, it increases. That's a sliding scale. Simply meaning the more you use, the more you use the electricity, the more you use the electricity, the more you pay. The more you pay. Someone would ask us, why wouldn't you have a fixed cost? No. We have some people who are sparing the electricity. How would you feel if you use 2 units? 2 units, and you pay the same amount as someone who has used 6 units? It would be cheating. So someone who has used 2 has to pay less, and someone who has used 6 has to pay more. Together? The more you use, the more you pay. That's the theory of the sliding scale. We have a table here. This is how it will look like, right? Probably. Okay, here we have block 1. Still, those ones who have done water tariffs, we have to find out. Each block has a maximum. Each block has a maximum. So here from 0, so block number 1 needs 50 kilowatts. The moment you exceed 50 kilowatts, the remaining, the one that has exceeded 50, it's pushed into block number 2. But then how would you know how many kilowatts are needed in block number 2? We shall say 350 minus the 50. Ignore the left-hand side. So 350 minus the 50, which becomes 300. So if someone has used 250, the 50 will be here, and the 200 will be in the next block. Let's go on. What about the next one here, which is the block number 3? How many kilowatts do we need? Here, it's 600 minus 350. And this would take 250, right? So we take an example. Someone has used 480 kilowatts. If someone has used 480 kilowatts per hour, how much would they pay? First and foremost, of 480, the 50 has to go to block number what? Block number 1. So that 50, we shall say 50 times 0.8375. So what's remaining? You're remaining with 430. 430 has been pushed to block number 2. But remember, block number 2 needs 300. What do? We come and remove our 300. We pay for the 300. You see that? So here you remain with 130. 130 has taken us to block number 3, which is 130 times 1,269. Please work out that. You get your answer here. How do you, like the answer, after working it out, you add all these numbers up, you get the answer. But then the question says, it says, all tariffs are VAT exclusive. What do? You include VAT. You multiply by 1,15. That was an example. Let's look at another part here. Yes, this belongs to data handling. Please, ascending, as you see the word ascending, it's from ascending, ascend, A. In alphabets, you know it very well that you start with A as we go on. So simply meaning Ascending, you're going to arrange from the smallest to the biggest. That's ascending. Then descending, descend. Descending, you're arranging from biggest to smallest. Okay, now here comes a confusion. I've given you this part here, and you see, let's try to arrange this in ascending order, whereby we start with the smallest. We shall start with the smallest value. Here, the smallest value is going to be negative 17 is the smallest value, followed by negative 67, followed by negative 1. So negative 1 is bigger than negative 17, and negative 6 is bigger than negative 17. You understand? Negative 1 bigger than negative 6, and negative 6 greater than negative 17. So here our first value here will be negative 17, 4, okay, followed by negative 6, followed by negative 1, 1, followed by, now here the smallest one comes to be 10, then 42, followed by 90, and at last we have 100. We are arranging from small to big. So here we went in and we say 10, 1, followed by 42, 7, followed by 90, 1, followed by 122, 2. So this is an example of ascending from smallest to biggest. All right, another thing that you have to take note of, because you could also have 50, 2, maybe we are saying 50, 2. 50, 2 is, no, sorry. 50, 2 is greater than 50, 04. This is in a place of 20. This is in a place of 4. You understand? So this one is small and this one is big. Take note of that. Okay, let's round up and we see. Mean. Mean. We know mean as mean. We shall add all the values and we divide it by the total number of numbers that we've added. Add all the values and we divide by that. All right. They are asking us, this could have also been the example. Is the example of is this an example of discrete or continuous data? Please, my dear friends, the moment you see all numbers, numbers without commas, the work or the data becomes discrete. Numbers without commas, the answer becomes discrete. If at all there were commas, then it would have been continuous. Now they're telling us, determine the median of class A. Sorry, we didn't have class A here. It's fine, but you know very well that median of it will be the middle value. The middle value. Now, if you're left with two numbers in between, you add them, you divide by 2. But if you're left with only one number, that would be the answer. Here, what brought me here, it was to look for the value of A if mean is 48,53. Ask yourself, how did they get the mean? I've given you the scenario here. So you already have the mean. So what you do, you put your mean aside. But this mean was got after adding the numbers and they divided by their total number. So what I want you to ask, what I want to ask you is, how many numbers are they? You shall say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. by 1, 2, 3. Oh, there are 30 numbers. So what you do now, add the normal numbers, add all these normal numbers plus the A. We add all the normal numbers, for example, let me see, 24 plus 26 plus 33 plus 46 plus 21 plus 39 plus 85 plus 66 plus 66, and we are adding plus 43 plus 32 plus 49 plus 31 plus 30 plus 25 plus 67 plus 54 plus 69 plus 51 plus 36 plus 78 plus 89 plus 92 plus 81 plus 73 plus 20 plus 18 plus 44 plus 48 plus 60. Yeah, you have 1,430. So ask yourself, okay, they got this much. So what do? We make it a linear equation. So what do? We multiply, because this is 1. So we're going to multiply through by 30 this side and multiply through by 30. That's in that this 30 goes with that. Then when you multiply by 30 this side, you end up having comma 9 equals to 1. So this jumps over there. And the answer becomes 25,9, which is approximately 26. All right, thank you for watching. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.